Retro anime. How did we find it? How does it hold up? Unpacking the ins and outs of being an old school nerd and proving that 80s kids can't remember a damn thing right. These are the mindless midlife musings of the anime nerd.
Welcome to Mindless Midlife Musings of the Anime Nerd. I'm Rick, and I'm joined by the rest of our panel, Brian, Lynette, and Vic. Hello, everyone.
What's up?
Hello.
Today we are joined by our special guest, Jason. Jason heads up the Las Vegas Macross fan group. Thanks for being with us today, Jason.
Well, thank you. Did a round of applause come through?
We'll have to add it in post. We'll add it in post. It'll be great. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be a choir of applause. So based on that intro, it should be pretty clear that in this episode, we enlist in UN Spacy and face off against the Zentradi and Meltrandi as we protect the last hope for humanity in Super Dimension Fortress Macross. Do you remember love? Super Dimension Fortress Macross, Do You Remember Love, also known as Macross Do You Remember Love, or Super Space Fortress Macross, is a 1984 Japanese animated space opera film based on the Macross anime television series. The film premiered in Japanese theaters on July 7th, 1984, which is just about the time this episode should be releasing. July 8th, I think this episode comes out. It received a huge marketing campaign that generated very long lines at theaters. Several of them had people camping out before the movie. And these events were dramatized in the anime Otaku no Video that came out in 91. So it was a big deal over there. Film distributor Toho International, they actually commissioned a dub that had been released in the United States throughout the late 80s and early 90s. The infamous Toho dub, named Super Space Fortress Macross, had been created for export sales in Hong Kong. The Toho dub was then edited down even more into another version renamed Clash of the Bionoids, which was released by Celebrity Home Entertainment's Just for Kids label in 1988. And at this point in time, this movie can only legally exist in Japan. Do You Remember Love is a film adaptation the original Macross series with completely new animation. And the storyline differs from the series dramatically, and within the Macross universe is itself considered a movie. In other words, it's a movie that's in the series. So we're going to get into some weird stuff because with anime, this is pretty unique. What is canon? With Macross, it's more like guidelines.
All right, hold on. Okay.
Yeah, let's go.
Whew.
I gave
Rick,
you a lot. I know.
Look, you gave us a lot, and I can guarantee you right now, I don't remember 1991 dub. Bro, I know that our friendship is based around the fact that you have to understand how important this series and this is to you. Right?
Fair.
Because I'm willing to bet that is the most amount of words that you have spoken for an intro without interruption in any of our episodes.
Yes, it is without a doubt one of the most complex arrangements of information. Like I've definitely gone deep dive on some of the other stuff, like Yorotsuki Doji had a pretty interesting release schedule. And some of the other stuff had this kind of stuff, but with this one, it's such a clusterfuck, for lack of a better term, that really you could do a whole episode on just how the fuck this movie even exists. Which we're not going to do. Now we're here for. But yeah, you're not wrong. There's a lot here, but and I am passionate about it. But
that's a wonderful word that you're using, passionate. Ladies and gentlemen,
I don't think it's a strong enough word.
We have discussed in previous episodes exactly how long our friendship has spanned, and yeah. I recently had to admit to one of my dear friends and one of my best friends that knowing how special this movie is, this is my first time ever watching it.
Wow! It made me really happy to hear that. Actually,
this is a highly influential anime, especially for those that absolutely love Macross. You know, this is something where, you know, we got a 36 episode series, and you all know that the quality of the animation varied throughout that series. And then all of a sudden, this movie comes out. And as far as I'm concerned, when I saw Macross originally, I was thrilled. And, before I saw Macross, it was like Star Wars, and the X-Wing, and that set the bar. And to be honest with you, when I saw Macross, like the Valkyrie raised the bar. And then this movie comes out and it went even higher. I saw this and my jaw dropped down to the ground, like that Tex Avery cartoon with the wolf looking at the sexy lady, the eye falls out, the jaw falls. Oh my God, what the hell is this? The closest thing that I can actually somewhat relate this to anybody that has really not seen this is kind of like Star Trek, the original series, like in the late 60s and 70s. And then all of a sudden, this movie comes out with this refit Enterprise / SDF-1 and new uniforms and slight Valkyrie designs. And the quality of the animation is really, really high. And it's absolutely gorgeous. And, of course, you're missing a lot of character development because you can't put 36 episodes into an hour and 15 minutes. But visually, and we've had discussions about this, me, Rick, and Vic, there's something very special about old school hand-drawn quality anime. Okay, so basically what I'm saying is for the time that this came out, and it still holds up well, this is the shit.
All right. Jason.
Mic drop. We're done. No.
Yeah. And now we'll go for closing statements.
Jason, we want to give the people a wonderful chance to understand your background in terms of animation. How did you get started in an anime?
When I was a kid, the first couple things I saw were like Speed Racer, Battle of the Planets, Gotcha Man, stuff like that, and I always thought that stuff was really, really cool. And then, like most people, pretty much Robotech.
Oh,
the tone.
Oh, I don't want to say it.
Well, quick funny story is I was like 13, probably about 13 years old, 13, 14 years old. And my little brother came back from the SWAT meet with like my mom, and he comes in and he's basically got Hikaru's transformable, like 6 or 7 inch VF1. And the second I saw that thing just completely and totally spoke to me. I'm like, what the hell is that? That's like the coolest damn thing I've ever seen. Learned how to transform it and all that other stuff. And lo and behold, 6 months, whatever it was, 8 months later, Robotech comes on. And I'm like, holy shit, that's the toy. This is like the coolest thing I've ever seen, So, the movie comes out and now I knew what it was from Do You Remember Love, And another quick note, for the longest time, probably up until the late 90s, I used to call it Macross Summer 84 because of all the trailers, and it said
the marketing,
84 Summer.
Yeah, the marketing stuff.
Yeah. I literally didn't know that it was actually Do You Remember Love probably until like the late 90s.
And for me, it was Clash of the Bionoids because it was the version that I first saw. Was the Clash of the Bionoids VHS tape. I remember where I had it. Blockbuster didn't have it, not mine anyway. But it was.
I could have sworn I saw it there.
Was it at that? So it might be where I picked it up then. So yeah, it was Clash of the Bionoids, and I vividly remember it because I had the same reaction that a lot of people had. Is you pick up this VHS tape, this Clash of the Bionoids, you're looking at your friend and you go, "That's the SDF-1. I don't know what the fuck a Bionoid is. But that's the SDF-1." So
it was at this moment that I wonder if a panel learned the word plagiarism.
And yeah, it was a unique moment. And so what's interesting about it is that when it comes to anime, a lot of times an anime will do a series. They have however many seasons of it they have, and then they do a compilation movie. It usually collects footage from the series into a long form film format. Gundam did it. A bunch of other anime have done it. And what's different about this was that they decided they were going to condense down their series into a long form movie. And then they just said, were doing it from scratch. And they completely did everything new. Reanimated every scene, rewrote the script. Like, just, this movie is an accompaniment to the series, but it stands completely alone because it has absolutely nothing left from the television series, except, of course, the characters and the DNA. As far as, like, production, completely from scratch. To this day, I don't know that any other anime do their compilation movies like this.
So some do, but not many.
Because it's very fucking expensive. This movie was not cheap to do. But it was without a doubt, the fandom were drawn in because the visuals were miles ahead of anything they'd seen in the television series. And you guys remember we watched Macross like last year, and watch this. It's like you're looking at a Ferrari compared to the Ford Escort that they were driving.
That's right.
I will say Fiero. I will go say Ferrari. I mean, that's good. I had a thought. What's the best equation for this? You have Star Trek, the series, right?
Sure.
The original series. And then you have Star Trek, the motion picture, right?
For sure.
Where, believe it or not, it's not a saying. They condense so many things and put it into the motion picture, right?
Yeah.
You actually said it in your intro about how we look at the comparison of what was done for it. I actually feel that the gravitas that was done in Do You Remember Love actually eclipses that motion picture. In my opinion.
I could see that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I do. I feel that.
Yeah. I agree with you on that.
It was made a lot of bold choices, and they really raised the stakes in the film version of this. In a way that the animated series, it was important, but for the movie, it was everything. Specifically, the music. The music in the television series was important to the storyline. It was obviously how they won the war, but in this, the song was everything. Without the song, everything fell apart, and they put so much care into it. It made it such an important and integral part of the storyline that carried over into every other series. So what I mean by that is, for those of you who may not be Macross aficionados, there's only like 5 of us in the world. What happens is the design of the SDF-1, the ship, is dramatically different in the film version versus the animated series. The character designs, they all kind of get updates. Misa has a different hairstyle. Minmay, everybody looks like amped up to 11. Like they're all got glow ups.
Minmay has nipples now.
Well, Rick, you took the words straight out of my mouth. I was going to say that for those of you that understand Spinal Tap, it's totally true. This thing goes up to 11 and maybe even further. I mean, this thing it's cranked. The consistency, everything from the shading to the backgrounds to the character designs.
Just to flat out everything.
They upgraded, the Valkyries, the paint schemes on them. Everything was just cranked up.
The Valkyries stood out the most to me.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like they put some junk on those trunks.
Yeah.
Yo.
Everything got a glow up, a major glow up. So much so that every series follows this, references the movie version,
DYRL.
the designs.
Yeah, I was going to say that. As to what we were saying about canon earlier, I find it really interesting how, the flight suits are referenced, the flight suits, the helmets, it's all referenced later, in later series, all from DYRL.
The film version sort of became the de facto
the design language for it.
Yes.
Design, yeah. So, I mean, and that's pretty telling about the success of the film, is that it was it basically supplanted this series and everything that came after it, with the exception of a handful of things in Macross 7. Everything that came after it references the Do You Remember Love version of events and the Do You Remember Love version of the designs. So it really had a rippling effect on the franchise as a whole. Not to put too fine a point on it, really did dramatically change the way this series is approached.
I would even want to point on the consistency of the artwork in there.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
We have talked about how some products where it looks like it's one thing and it looks great, and then you see a dramatic drop in there, like somebody's hand got tired.
Yeah.
These motherfuckers ate their Wheaties the entire time.
That they did. Yeah,
Wheaties
you're
and Red
absolutely
Bull.
right.
All right.
Wheaties and Red Bull. Before it was a thing, they invented it.
Yeah, the quality was 100% consistent throughout.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, your hand's going to get tired after 36 episodes. It's a little easier to do 115 minutes.
Look, I'm just saying steroids were used to make sure that everything was drawn the same way.
So some of the stuff that's different about this, and I don't really want to get into the differences so much as the film itself, but one of the things that's really important is that it establishes early on a very different dynamic in the storyline. The ship itself, you can see, is a fully realized like techno-utopia. Like, the Macross is clearly intended to be like a colony ship. It's got a fully functioning city. This isn't like the TV series where, oops, we accidentally teleported an entire island to Pluto. Now we're going to have to put the city inside. In this, the city is intended to be there, and you can kind of tell it was designed with that intention.
Which is a change from what the series was. It feels like the series was, hey, we're all stuck here together. Let's make the best of it.
Yeah.
And it adapted quite well.
Right.
Really well.
Like, you motherfuckers have malls?
Yeah.
Malls, holograms, robots picking up your trash. Yeah.
Right.
Honda dealerships.
Yeah. You guys are supposed to be on rations as opposed to, we plan for this to happen. We want to go to Pluto.
Got Coca-Cola vending machines.
McDonald's or whatever that was, where they
It was McDonald's.
And it's all structured so that it can transform.
All those hinges and panels, it was all like with intention.
Not only that, there's scenes when you look, the cars are tied down. They're actually tied down, ready for transformation so you don't lose anything.
Yeah, everything had this intentionality to it. And I loved that about it. I loved the idea that this wasn't oops, this is going to be a colony ship. We're Noah's Arking this shit, and we're going to take this to the stars. And it changes the vibe of it all. Whereas in the original, it's like, oops, fuck, we fucked up. Let's figure something out. And every 5 minutes, or it was, oops, we fucked up. Let's figure something out. In this one, everything was set, and they're like, we got shit to do. We're not going to go through all that.
Like, it's a difference between the Enterprise and the original series versus the Enterprise and Next Generation. You find that Next Generation, they're actually supposed to bring their families on board, and every day have schools. There's a whole ecosystem there, as opposed to it's a warfaring ship.
Yeah,
right.
And
Absolutely.
The business is war. So it definitely comes across as, hey, it doesn't feel as, and I don't think they even made this when they were discussing this within the prologue and the, what's that title, the titler? When you're talking about how we got here. It doesn't really address that, hey, we have come together to make this world happen. It doesn't really, that would be my one. And please, Jason, Vic, Rick, please don't hate me when I say this word. Flaw.
Oh, man. Listen, I am the first to tell you, and I say it all the time, there's no such thing as a perfect movie. This film lacks a lot of things that I would have loved to have seen. And if we want to dig into the flaws, I think it's a fine place to start. The prologue misses the point. biggest problem with Macross Do You Remember Love is that, honestly, you kind of have to at least have seen some of the series to be able to watch the movie.
Okay.
Yes,
If you
that's correct.
you miss a lot of the character development.
Yeah, and you don't fully understand everything. It's like when you read a book, and then, or it's like if you read somebody's biography and then they come out with the movie. Well, somebody's biography is 20, 30 years, you know, and then you got to compress it all into an hour and a half or 2 hours. It doesn't always.
You're not going to get everything.
You're not going to get everything. It's like I said, 36 episodes of a show into 115 minutes. You're getting down to the skeleton and the meat, and that's what you're getting. But they make up for it visually.
Dude, yeah, a lot of characters have to take a back seat for the film because narratively you can't follow a dozen characters. Characters that I adore, like Claudia, she gets a handful of lines. She does the best she can with them, but she's barely in it. Yeah, my favorite character, Kakizaki, he's in it for like 2 lines and to die. Like, there's really not much.
Talk about that. Let's talk about, since we brought in rigor mortis into this bitch. I'm so upset about pineapple salad being removed.
Yeah. There's a lot of choices that they had to make, and Foger's death in this movie, it doesn't have nearly as much bite as the series. It really does.
I think in that particular scene, me personally, if he would have taken out about 15 guys with him,
right,
I would have been okay with it. I mean, it's still really cool because he's probably my all-time favorite Macross character. Yeah. But it's like I said, it's still really cool. But it's definitely different. It's definitely different. It's got a completely different tone than the series.
It is. It's a lot of these side characters, these supporting cast, they took a back seat, and it's unfortunate because some of the really heavy points from the television series, they get lost by the wayside. And like Jason said, they make up for it with incredible visuals. And arguably, Kakizaki goes down before one of the greatest animated dogfights ever rendered.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
if not the greatest.
And it's all in service of following main trio. And
I believe that when they had a whole conference about coming back and redoing this and deciding what things were going to stay and what things were going to go, one of the things they said is, listen, whatever y'all do, don't you fucking touch Max.
Max was great in the series and arguably even better in this. Everything about his skill level is
oh my God,
really shown.
They made him legendary.
That fight inside the Zentradi cruiser with Max and Miria.
Unbelievable.
Insane.
She's on the ceiling when he comes in, and behind him, and then they shoot the lights out, and they're shooting at each other in the fucking dark.
Oh, and we're talking about 2 big ass. Well, one's a mech and the other one's a suit, but they are just moving with such fluidity. It is skeet motherfucker.
Is a very well done, well storyboarded. But the entire action sequence was so well storyboarded and well animated, and everything about it was with so much care. But that's the whole fucking movie. Like every single cloud of dust is a goddamn work of art. But that fight was legendary. That fight absolutely legendary.
And the last part of that fight, when the suit opens up and Max sees her for the first time.
Yeah.
And Max goes, you know what? I dabbed that.
They switched it, where she becomes, she becomes small. He goes the opposite way and goes big,
which
is
fucking baller.
Yeah, which is great. And you don't even know until towards the end of the movie when you see them together. You're like, oh my God. So when you see the series and you see this, you're like, wow, what a really cool twist.
Yeah. That's Do You Remember Love's real magic sweet spot is people who watch the series and watch the movie go, oh wow, that's an interesting twist. And they do that to you
a few times.
Yeah. But it's all in service of a bigger story, the bigger story being the love triangle. They really focused on the love triangle. And it pays off in a way because you get I would argue, a more well-structured love triangle. The story itself has a better outcome. It's, more appropriate closure. Hikaru's less of a bitch. That's basically the best way I can describe it. He's less of a bitch in this. Whereas before, he strings Minmay along for God knows how long, and they play house together and all this shit. In this one, he knows. He's like, and he even tells Misa, he's like, as soon as we got on the ship again and I saw her music, and I knew that you were the one I was in love with.
Well,
Like,
it shows. It shows in the scene where they, exactly like what you said, where they returned and they're out there in front of the media, and, Minmay sees him and she goes and she hugs him, and he just stands there. He doesn't even put his arms around her, So you've got this much more streamlined love triangle, where it's more straight to the point.
Yeah.
So all right. So he's much less of a bitch. In my opinion, I think he's more of a fuck up though.
He's on Earth with Misa for a month. He has a much longer time to build a much stronger relationship with her. And as far as he's concerned, they're the last two people ever.
Right.
when they're on Earth, they don't know. They're just like, this is it.
All right. Can you guys explain to me? All right. I do not understand where in the timeline this city came from.
Okay, I can explain that. So they do attempt to explain it in the film, but it can be confusing. It's not necessarily a cleanest cut part of the narrative. The city is the city of the protoculture. The protoculture being an ancient alien race that created humanity. So some 500,000 years ago, they landed on Earth, set up a city, did some genetic fun stuff with the local fauna.
Might take a while.
Yeah, and created humans. So the city is their city.
In a sense, it's kind of like the lost city of Atlantis. In a way,
okay.
Yeah.
It like something that was hidden, and then all of a sudden, it comes out of nowhere, like when the Zentradi, and Meltrandi, return, in a sense,
Yeah.
So it can be inferred that when the Zentradi came back and the SDF fired, the city rose at the same time.
Yeah, that pillar of the city rose up during the Zentradi assault on Earth. When the Zentradi wiped out Earth, the city it came up because the city is like, oh, Daddy's home.
All right. So here's the question: and again, I imagine that we have so many aficionados here; they can tell me whether or not I'm correct in this. Do you think it's the actual arrival of not just the Meltrandi, but the Zentradi technology around Earth that makes the city rise up?
Yes, I believe that is the case, and I believe that's what they inferred. They were trying to tell us in the monologue that Misa has to spit out, the exposition dump that Misa gives us, which they were really reaching with that. Like, okay, Misa is a brilliant woman, but she very quickly understood the protoculture language and very quickly was able to ascertain a whole lot of history.
Yeah, and here's the question that I have. We're leading right to something that I wanted to bring up. Earlier in the film, when Britai and Exodor go to talk to Badolza, or if I get the names wrong, sorry.
Sorry, don't worry about it.
But either way, he actually brings out that the tablet.
Right.
He brings the tablet out, and he's talking about protoculture and Micronians and all that other stuff. And what I'm wondering is, I'm not sure on this. This is why I'm asking, but do you think that he feared the integration of men and women together, and creating culture? I mean, because, he seems to be cool with everything towards, for a while. And then obviously towards the end, I don't want to, what he does towards the end, et cetera. But I've always kind of never had a complete and total clear answer for that.
So yeah, they're programmed to fear the Myclones, programmed You're instructed, don't fuck with them. Don't even get involved. And I don't necessarily think that was programmed in them by the protoculture. I think that was programmed in by Zentradi themselves. That ultimately, as they evolved, they made those decisions. Like, we just can't get caught up in this, because if we get caught up in this, the men and the women will be mixing and yak the culture. We can't have that. So I think that those rules were set in place by their own people, because they were the warring races. Humans, we evolved on a different train. We evolved on a cultural train where the both sexes intermingled. The Zentradi and Meltrandi, they evolved into these giant warring races. So yeah, he was absolutely afraid of it, but also intrigued with it, which I think it's the mystery of it all. Like any historian or an anthropologist, it's just like, I have this thing, and so fucking weird, because like it makes music, which is not something we're used to. These noises are weird. So it's
like, I could have given them a harmonica and they would have lost their fucking shit. Where did these come from?
What I love about it is the simplicity of it. Ultimately, at the end of all this, it was just a plain, simple love song. Like, it was just a really popular song in the protoculture.
Not even a good one. Not even fucking Luther Vandross. We're talking about.
It was like a Taylor Swift song. It was just like insanely popular.
Not even like Barry White. They would have lost their shit with Teddy Pendergrass.
It was a song that was just so popular that fucking everybody had the CD of it. You know what I mean? Like, it was just one of those kinds of songs.
This is Hans and Uma.
It's like everybody had a copy of it. and so it just so happened that's why of course Misa was able to find the lyrics to it, because she had the liner notes, because fucking everybody in that city apparently loved the song.
Yeah, and she was
you know what it was? We don't have this now, but you remember back in our wonderful time of growing up by cassette tape, and we were lucky enough to have the cassette tape that had the lyrics in that mix.
Oh, that was the best. Absolutely. Yeah. That's what this is. Yeah.
Yeah. And she was like, I don't have to worry about phonetics. It says it right here. Do you remember love? Why are we having this conversation?
Nobody had it. So Bulldozer, all he had was the karaoke track, so he didn't have any lyrics. And then Misa found the liner notes. And she's like, hey, I've got lyrics. And that was it. That was magic. The world was saved.
The funny thing is, that's based on an actual true story from World War II. And I didn't know this until about a week ago. I saw somebody else on YouTube discuss this movie, and I watched it, as homework for this. And I did not realize this, but there was somebody in World War II in Japan that made some song, and apparently it was incredibly popular with all the soldiers, and that's where they actually got the idea.
What I'm saying, how unlike music, actually, it's actually very spot on. Thanks a lot, Jason.
I'll throw that one up.
Hey, you're going to fit in fine.
Rick, Vic, and I were texting each other the other night, and, I'm sitting there on social media. Lo and behold, somebody posted that scene where Kakizaki goes down. And when I watch that scene, I'm always focused on Kakizaki in the bottom right-hand corner of the cockpit, because his head is exploding and all that other stuff. He gets hit. Well, somebody posted it, but there's like a muzzle flash. A little muzzle flash, like literally a second to a second and a half before he goes down. And I can't remember which one of you said it, but here we are 40 fucking years later. We're still realizing, like, holy shit, we never saw that before.
Yeah. Every single time I've watched the movie, there's always something that I've never noticed before.
And considering that, Brian, you'd never seen it before, now you can kind of understand. This is absolutely going to be the kind of thing where you're going to catch stuff if you ever, when you sit through it again. That's this kind of movie.
Yeah,
and it's we draw a lot of parallels to Star Trek, because there's a lot of parallels to be had. But it's a lot like rewatching a Star Trek movie. You'll catch a bit of dialogue, or you'll catch a bit of tech, and you're like, oh fuck, I didn't even notice that before. And that it's just This movie continues to impress me because of that. It's this shiny object. There's so much hidden in it.
Yeah.
And you don't catch it all in the one sitting. Anyway.
All right. It's time.
I'll set the scene for our listeners. Misa has translated the lyrics to the song, the infamous song. And she goes to show them to Hikaru, and Hikaru is he's in his room with Minmay. Perfectly innocent accident. And is typical with all scenes. Lack of communication really just fucks shit up. And Minmay storms off. So Misa tells him, you need to take these lyrics. You need to find her. We need her to sing this song.
I would say at that moment in time, she was by far one of the biggest heroes of the whole series. Of the whole movie.
Absolutely.
Look, she said it like a boss. Like, listen, just go get her. We need her. She's right
No
now.
hesitation. Just
Go get her.
Perfect example of the mature woman that was, or the mature older individual that was looking at the whole picture,
Right.
the looking at the horizon and seeing this is what we need to do because this is coming down the road. You can't let her run off, like that.
Rick, did you play this when you brought him on here? These wonderful words coming out of his mouth. Horizon. Big picture. This is what you went.
This is why we're such good friends. It's a testament to Misa as a character. She's a commanding officer. She controls Gun Site 1. She's in charge of handling all of these pilots and all of these moving, parts on this ship. It's a testament to her ability as a commander to see the bigger picture and be like, we need her, go get her. This is a strategic move right now. Yes, I'm a woman. Yes, I hate her, but you need to go get her. So she sends Hikaru after her. And he finds her. And she's having a little hissy fit. She's upset. And she's losing her shit. She's manic. She's depressed. And she's upset. And she's like, it gets to a point where she says something that makes Hikaru snap. She basically just says, I wish everyone else would just die and leave just us.
Oh, yeah.
And at this point, Hikaru's had very much enough. He's lost too many people. He's lost too much of his life at this moment to have their little love triangle be reduced to this nonsense. And
oh, can I just point out his facial expression when she says that? Perfectly drawn. I was like, oh, she about to get hit.
You saw that coming, huh?
I knew he was going to hit her.
Well,
I didn't know if it was going to be open hand or closed fist, but he was.
Look, this is one of those moments where if you have watched how Hikaru has been in Macross, I did not know he had stones.
Well,
I am surprised.
He grew up a little bit. He listened to some of the stuff that Roy was telling him early in the film. But I have never seen this movie ever subtitled or in English. But if you actually go back to that scene and really listen to what he's saying, I'm pretty damn sure you can hear the name Kakizaki and Senpai Foker or something like that of that nature. So it's exactly like he said. He's telling her, I've lost too many people. I've lost Roy. I've lost, my friend, my co-pilot Kakizaki. He gets pissed, and you all know what comes.
He fucking puts her in her place real fast.
The slap.
That's what I'm saying. His face went.
Slap.
And you hear it.
4 decades later, and you can still feel it.
Yeah, he brings her back. He literally brings her back down into reality.
He does. He snaps her back. He snaps her back, and he smacks the living shit out of her.
He smacks her so hard, her grandchildren will feel it. They're gonna come out and go.
Look.
My grandchildren are gonna come out with a red hand mark on their face, and no one's gonna know why.
A dent. They're gonna have permanent dents.
He smacks her with the fervor of 1,000 IT department guys who slap their computers, hoping that it's gonna work, and that shit actually worked. He's like, the slap couldn't work. It completely resets her to, you're right, I'm tripping.
That's absolutely it. He smacks the sense right into her. And he does. He smacks the living shit out of her. And he tells her, he's like, hey, look, Fokker, Kakizaki, all these people, they've all died believing in this. They've all died fighting for this. And he's basically like, and you're being a little bitch. Get this shit together.
Yep. And then
like seriously, it was 3 fucking days. You want to get rid of everybody for 3 fucking days?
Yes. She was being very immature and very just like she's being very unreasonable. And he smacks the shit out of her, and it works. She's like, "You're right."
And we need to stop and say that we are not promoting this behavior whatsoever.
Absolutely not.
No.
And now, if the fate of all humanity rests on it, I think taking a hand to the cheek is probably warranted.
As the female of this group, if I had ever said anything like that on a ship that's about to die, I give you guys permission to smack the shit out of me. If I ever come up to you at the end of the world and just say, you know what, I just wish everybody was dead except for us, you guys have carte blanche to just come up and whack me to give me the Hikaru slap. I'm just
that's it.
And
she lived, and so did everybody else.
Yeah.
And we have to talk about the scope of things. We're not talking about, oh shit, my dinner's not ready, slap. No.
Slap that saved humanity.
Vic, you haven't said a lot this time, but those are them words. It's a slap that saved you.
Yes.
You get back right.
That's what I'm saying.
He just did the slap, and that was it. Here we go.
I'm telling you, I had to freeze frame his face because I was like, ooh, something bad gonna happen. That's the one time that I would say it's okay to slap the shit out of somebody, is if the fate of humanity goes on and they're acting like a big old baby, just Hikaru smack them.
It was at that moment in time, that he sees. I used to have a hard time saying his name versus Rick Hunter.
Yeah.
Not after that moment. The bitch is Hikaru. What the fuck? Not Rick Hunter no more.
It builds to an incredible climax.
Yeah.
The original series, it was intended to end on the episode Love Drifts Away. It was like 20-something episodes in. And that's where they had their big final battle, and Minmay sings, and they win the war. And that's where they had intended to end it before it got, the license got extended. They wanted more episodes. So then they did the whole reconstruction arc, which we discussed in the episode on the series. So for this, they decided we're going to end it where we were going to end it originally. And they do. They do by giving it just an epic space battle, the likes of which, rarely animated.
It's truly awesome. It's true. The scale of everything, what's going on, the visuals. It's exactly like you said. It's epic.
In the original series, Bulldoza is just a dude in a purple trench coat with a bald head. He's not very imposing, really. And in this, he's this just incredibly intricate, organic, like cyborg. He literally is the ship in this. The ship isn't his ride, it's him.
It's him. It's like he's this biomechanical being,
It's such, all the Zentradi designs through the roof on this one. Everybody got just incredibly more interesting and alien designs. And to speak to that, they also got a language, which was super cool. They didn't have a language in the series. So for the movie, they created an entire language for them. They had their own alphabet. They released trinkets and paraphernalia that had the Zentradi alphabet on it. They had decoder rings, all that cool shit that we had in the 80s. And became a whole thing, much like the Klingon language in Star Trek, which is, again, just another parallel. The Klingons, they spoke English in the series. It wasn't until the movies where they got a language.
Their own language.
And then it became a thing, So it was kind of a cool move. I dug the shit out of that. The Zentradi got a lot more, where the Meltrandi half really kind of took a back seat. the Zentradi really got like a more fully fleshed out world, which is kind of interesting considering they were able to manage to do that in the context of the film versus they could have had that for the series, you know?
The fact that they opened the movie with that.
Yeah, the movie literally opens with an alien language. It was kind of cool.
Not only that, but the sound effects on their voices, like the echo, and you're seeing Exodor with like the spider hands and more of the brain-shaped head, and you right away, and it's dark, and you're seeing the stuff, and you're like, oh my god, this is so cool, this is so creepy looking, but it's so neat.
It's very alien. Which is
very
exactly the intention. Anyway, so yeah, it's the whole scene is fucking fire. It's Max and his macronized power armor. He and the Meltron are fighting, and Exodal and Britai realize that they can have a culture, and they decide to align with Earth to protect Mid-May, and yeah, so it's an all-out assault. It's amazing. Beer can missiles, the whole thing. For those of you who may or may not have caught it, a couple missiles in there. Barrage were beer cans. It was hilarious.
What was it? A Budweiser and another brand?
And some other brand. It's like a pig or something like that on some can.
It's fucking great. Little things. It ends there. It ends there. You get the defeat of the big enemy. You get a moment of peace, and it's cool because like Britai he's now dedicated to the cause of bringing his people culture and freeing them all. And he and Exodal are like, oh, we got a fuck ton of other ships to go do this to. Let's get to it.
Right. So we're going to need this big ass. So let's rebuild it. Yeah.
Right.
We have scrap metal. So
yeah, we got plenty of scrap metal.
There's a lot floating out there.
And then it depending on the version of the film you've seen, you may or may not have gotten the epilogue, which is kind of in its own thing. So in the original series, they intended the film to end with Min-May singing a final concert as an epilogue. And in the original release, that didn't happen. They ran out of money. Can you believe it? They ran out of money. So they were able to animate that and add it later. So every version since the 84 release has had the Min-May concert epilogue. So yeah, and it's, her epilogue it's the concert preparing to send off the next Mega Road SDF ship to colonize space. It's
the culture space.
The culture space. Thank you. Culture space. I like that's a great way to word it.
I have another sin that I committed that I need to talk to you about.
Go ahead.
I did what you told me not to do. What was the only thing you told?
I said don't watch the dub. That was literally the only command I gave you was don't watch the dub.
Did you watch the dub?
I watched the dub by accident.
Oh, Brian.
The dub is infamously bad. For the listeners who have never had the pleasure of the Clash of the Bionoids dub, the dub was made in Hong Kong, as I had said in the opening, and it was done with intention. They wanted to release it in English and Japanese. So the Japanese studio paid to have it dubbed. It's notoriously bad. It's really bad. The pacing is stilted. The delivery is laughable. It's all around free thing. If you ever want to make an argument for why things shouldn't be dubbed, this is the one you use for it. It's a really bad dub.
It's like finding out that Mariah Carey, when she spoke in real life, she sounded like the Swedish chef.
And you're like, oh, what the fuck was that? That's this dub. You're absolutely right.
My erection is going down so fast. Please stop. I can't stop it.
It's not something I encourage anyone to watch. If you have no alternative, which we didn't in the late 80s, early 90s, the only version that we got was the Clash of the Bionoids release. Really,
at least it was officially released.
It's Brad, like Brian said at the top of the show. I'm absolutely fanatical about Macross. I have bought this movie more than any other movie. I own this movie I've had it on VHS. I've got it on Blu-ray. I've had it on DVD. I've got it on fucking Laserdisc like 3 times.
Same.
I've spent more money on this movie, probably to mentally justify why I pirate the shit out of it, more than anything else. And but the dub is absolutely the worst way to watch this movie.
I'm glad I've never seen it.
Oh my God! Jason. One of the biggest problems with this film, seeing a release, is of course the big issue, the big rivalry, the big legal dispute between Harmony Gold holding Tatsunoko's license and with Big West Studio Nue, who created Macross. And unfortunately, with the movie, there's another player, and that's Toho. Toho was the distributor for the film. So because of the legal hurdles surrounding this movie, it is not available outside of Japan in any way, legal form, nor do I expect it to be anytime soon, to be perfectly frank. That being said, I will be the first to tell you it's worth sailing the 7 seas to find it, if that's what you got to do. But I think you could honestly probably catch it on YouTube at this point. I'm pretty sure somebody uploads it like every other week.
You probably could, and I'm pretty sure you can get the Blu-ray off like CD Japan for about $30.
Yeah, we're running long. We should definitely wrap up our talk on this. I know we didn't get to dig it too much into the weeds on the storyline. I feel like we dug into the weeds plenty on the series, and really this episode should accompany that, just like the movie accompanies the series. I'll start with Vic. Vic, this is Macross Do You Remember Love. Let's get into it. Tell me about it. How do you feel about it 40 years later? 40 years to the day that this episode releases.
So for this show, I actually watched it 3.5 times. I watched all 3 of the Laserdisc versions, and then I skimmed the Blu-ray for changes or differences, which there were. It was interesting seeing the quality difference between like the original release Laserdisc from '84, then to the Perfect Collection version, which was just phenomenal. And then the general release version after that, which was not as good. And then you followed it up with the PlayStation 3 hybrid disc, which had the violence blurred for whatever reason. But it's like every single time, it's like it just got better and better and better. And I'd watch it again if I had more time right now. I mean, I just enjoyed it. And like I mentioned it earlier, it's like on every single viewing that I've had this movie in the past 3 decades, it's always something new to pick up. I think when we were bored during COVID, I mentioned it to you, Rick, where it's like, I never noticed the missiles and the beer cans on the Perfect Collection. I just realized that when Rick and Minmay were talking and Lisa walked in that room, there's a blue VFX4. It was the prototype, so it's a VFX. And it's like those little things throughout the entire freaking movie. It's like every single viewing, there's something new. It's either something huge, something tiny, like Jason brought up with the muzzle flash right before Kakizaki going down. It's like, for a movie from 1984, you don't get this kind of quality often. It's like in the 80s, it's like, yeah, sure, there's quite a few movies and a lot of them are great, but, between 84 and it's like 88 when Akira's launched, it's like the quality, visual quality, it's like was always hit and miss. And it's like, for a movie from 1984, it's just freaking phenomenal. If it wasn't for freaking Harmony Gold, it's like more people would not have to jump through hoops to see this. And that's what sucks. It's like, if you get the opportunity to watch and, if you like space, sci-fi, anime with giant mechs, it's like, it's really good. So yeah, definitely go watch it.
Cool. Thank you for that. Lynette, I'm going to go to you now. This was your first time with it, I assume, especially since it was your first time with the series. So how did it feel for you to check this out for the first time?
I thought it was in more 90s. I had to like double check the description to see that it was made in the 80s. I was like, whoa, I was like 3 when this thing came out. But but I actually enjoyed it. It was really good. A lot of the battle scenes there, the fact that it was so smooth that I felt like a cat that you showed laser light to. It's like, oh, what's that? You couldn't really focus on all, when you're first watching it. That's what I would say is this does warrant and it does deserve. If you can watch it multiple times, watch it multiple times, because I watched it about 1.5 because I had to refresh my thing. And that battle scene is always where I'm just like, whoa, 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 whoa. This is just like, that's all I was doing. And really, really couldn't pay attention until like the guy goes, we're going to fight together. And I was like, whoa, I'm just sitting there and I'm just like, oh, wow. And then all of a sudden there's this flash of white everywhere. And I'm like, did everybody die? Did everybody live? What happened? And then, but, I have to say it does keep your attention. It's like you want to pay attention to it. You want to see how beautiful it is. The fact that you get to watch as it transforms and you can see when the people were too dumb to lock down their car and their car falls over, or when they're the fact that they showed that, right? So it's not like everybody was aware to lock everything down. There's always that dumb person who is like, oh, I forgot, and you can see stuff like falling down. And but the fact that you could see it transforming inside, seeing how the city just goes whoop, and I was like, that's some amazing origami right there. I don't know how they did that stuff. But then you guys mentioned it's hand drawn, so I had to like step back and be like, holy this is somebody literally sat and just did that. And so if for anything, you gotta pay attention to that part. If you don't understand the story, that's cool, but you should understand the story. It's a nice one. And then you got to watch the Hikaru slap. That's just the big one there. But visually, it's beautiful. So I say watch it again, and then if there's still no legal way to go, maybe we can have a mindless midlife musing where we sit out in the middle of an ocean and all share it together. We can all get on a big old boat and watch it together.
International waters, bitches.
Just have an event.
I'm the captain now. I'm the captain.
A Macross cruise. A Macross cruise.
Oh man. Cool. All right, cool. At this point, we're gonna go with Jason. Jason, you've experienced this movie several times over. But revisiting now again, 40 years of this film being out. Tell me about it. How do you feel about it? How do you feel holds up? Do you feel people should check it out?
I think it holds up extremely well. It's highly influential for me personally. It's my all-time favorite anime. And I know there's stuff that's a little bit slicker, cleaner, etc. That has come out later because everybody's using computers now. And I mean, hell, if I was producing or directing something, I would go that route too. But there's something very special about hand-drawn animation, and we've discussed it, and Lynette said it too. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And usually this is something, I've told the story to Rick before. Like a year ago, my big screen TV went out. I bought another one. This is that disc that I pop in, to look at the TV and look at the color. And a lot of times I pop this thing in and I just watch certain scenes, mainly the battle scenes. So watching it from beginning to end in full context, for this particular podcast was really special for me because there were some little things that I kind of forgot about. And it was just absolutely beautiful. Like I said, I absolutely love it. The only thing that I can think of that really exceeds it, like design wise and everything for me, is more Macross, Delta and Frontier and some of the others. So I love the mech designs. I don't think anything is better than what Shoji Kawamori has designed, and that's what got me into this whole thing in the first place. But 40 years later, watching this thing, it's absolutely stunning. It's gorgeous. It's on that personal list of films that are influential to me, and I still think in a way it could also be on a list of highly influential, like that politically correct list of science fiction movies that influence everybody, like Forbidden Planet, 2001, and obviously Star Wars, etc. Well, this is kind of like that for anime, for sci-fi anime.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. All right, Brian, your first time with Do You Remember Love? How did you feel about it?
I hated it.
Oh well, that's what it is.
One second, unfriend.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are having opening for.
Look. I didn't think I was ever going to say this, but I thought Akira was better. Look,
no, 3 by 3 eyes of Shakespeare committed it.
I don't know exactly how much longer I was going to be able to keep it up. Vic, you really didn't have to unfriend me. You can friend me back. I was joking.
Okay, 1 second. Done.
Unblocked.
I really enjoyed it. My one gripe about it is I don't like how rushed everything is. That's the one thing I have on it. Because there are beauties in the details of what they chose to admit to make a grander story. And I don't even think it's a grander story. It's the same story, just told at a much quicker pace. But where they got things wrong, they got some things really, really great. You don't really get to see the scope of the different sizes between the microns and the Zentradi, But just that scene with Max and Mira, in the heat of battle, it stops it. Damn, that's a huge fit. I mean, it really, it really comes to man, there's skill here, I know that I can watch this forever, the same way I've watched Star Wars and Star Trek, and I find there are things that I can say to myself repeatedly, or I find new stuff to watch for this. I can see that I'm willing to invest time to invest in this series because of the decision that they made throughout in just the animation. It's really great. Much better than Akira. Much better story than Akira.
So, all right. Well, that's you heard it from everyone else on the panel. I'm just going to be parroting all the same talking points. It's a landmark piece of animation. It's something that changed anime. Or, the anime industry evolved. It was one of those points where they made a movie and the rest of the industry looked and said, holy shit, when we put money into these things, they turn out really good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
who'd have thought?
Then we started getting things like Ghibli movies and animation quality of Akira. The animation quality, Brian, not the story, I know, but the animation quality.
Little kids. Who wants to watch a movie about little kids telling you the background music? Fuck that shit.
Okay, keep it together.
No. I want to hear my story. I want my hero to be a pop culture. I want Taylor Swift and Voltron
to save humanity
together. And that's how we save this shit with fucking music. I'm a DJ. Of course, this shit's gonna resound with me. No, you don't.
Pulled out Voltron.
It's one of those anime that changed the way anime was made. The attention to detail, the quality of the animation is, again, just it's held in such high regard. And like other panelists have said, that there's little quick cheats to it now where we use CG for things, and there's things and it's so much technical work. This is all hand drawn and amazing. It's a work of art. It really is. Yeah, absolutely. You need to check this out. And it's funny because it is the shiny toy in the room. It's the big shiny toy in the room that everything lights up and everybody looks at it and goes, wow. But when you really sit down and experience it, there's a story there. And what I always found interesting about Macross in general is that people call it a mecha anime, and they're like, oh man, it's one of the most famous mecha anime of all time. And I'm like, it's not a mecha anime. People call it that. It's a soap opera. It's a love story. It's a love story. Just happens to have mecha in it, and it's a common misconception.
Yeah, whereas adult series as well.
Whereas Gundam, is literally it's about fucking Gundams. Like it's all about the latest greatest version of a Gundam, and it's about the horrors of war. Really, Gundam is. Macross is the opposite of that. Macross it's about love. It's about culture. It's about human connection, and that's what it's always been about. You remember love shines the biggest, prettiest light on that. And because of the success of it, franchise lived on.
Yeah. There's not much war in this bitch. It's all about
it really is. You're not wrong. You get a little war at the beginning, you get a lot of war at the end. It's worth your trouble to find. I think it is bootlegged on YouTube, so that's easy. But if you really want to experience it, you really want to watch it, you can get it. It's not technically legal, but Amazon sells it. You can get it off of Amazon. CD Japan, you won't be able to watch it with subtitles. Not yet. See? That's been the biggest curse about this movie, is that every time I buy it, I'm like, this is going to be the version I buy. They snuck in English subtitles. It's never happened. But I've bootlegged this more times than I can count, and I will continue to do so. And I will continue to buy every version of it I find, because it means that much to me. It made me an anime fan. That's the way I describe it is Macross is the series that made me understand what anime was. Because I'd seen Robotech. It was a cartoon. It was just an afternoon cartoon, Robotech. But when I found Clash of the Binoids, I was like, holy shit, this is so much more than that.
Yeah.
Granted, it sounded awful, but
sounded terrible. But it was also that point where I'm like, wait a minute, they're not saying the names right. They're not calling him Rick. Like, what the hell? I was like, wait a minute, they're not, like, this is all weird. And then it sends you down the rabbit hole, and I'm like, oh my God, there's like a whole other thing to this. That this is not that cartoon series I've been watching. This is something else entirely. And that's what opened it up to me. This is that, and this is that. It's so worth your time. It is a companion piece. I do recommend, if you watch this, you feel like, man, I would like to have seen a little more story, you're going to want to watch it with the series. The series is the companion piece. You're going to need it. It'll give you so much more context for all these characters. These great characters that all have such rich and interesting stories. It's worth your time.
They did dirty. They did Global dirty.
They did him dirty. He has so little to do in this. He almost doesn't need to be in the movie. He had one job, and it was to yell fire. Like, that was his only job. Truly, it is a companion piece. It is, and that's Macross as a whole, really. You watch the series, and then you get these companion piece movies that just take that material and they kind of push it just a little bit further, and they exist together yet separate. Do pick it up. Do find it. Whatever it takes. Do it, and while you're watching it, I encourage you all to say, fuck Harmony Gold.
I second that.
So, that's going to do it for our show today. So until next time, keep calm and yuck the culture.
You've just been privy to the mindless midlife musings of the anime nerd, presented by Geek Grotto. For show notes and corrections, or for general geeky fun, you can visit our website at geek-grotto.com. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast app, please like, follow, and subscribe.